Hello and a very warm welcome to the show. Now, when you think of Bournemouth, you probably think of the iconic, wonderful pier and its magnificent beaches.
But what if we were to tell you that there are more hidden treasures than first meet the eye?
Yes, indeed. From alpaca farms to the beautiful New Forest, from nature reserves to elaborate hiking trails.
There is plenty to do here in Bournemouth.
And a quick joke here for you, Max. Did you hear the one about the race between the sand and the sea?
No, I didn't. Tell me what happened.
Well, it was quite a boring race. In the end, they tied.
Ha! They tied. Very good. Love it. I do love Bournemouth Beach, don't get me wrong, but finding out the hidden local spots can be a good change in scenery.
So, on this week's show, we delve into some of the hidden gems that could elevate your family getaway.
First up, we will take you to the New Forest Heritage Centre, followed by a chat with our guest speaker, Emily Ardouin, who has come to talk about where you can look for the rare red squirrel.
And we'll also be looking at submissions that you've sent in, telling us about how you've been keeping busy in your own garden.
I am Angus Harley and I am the Director of the New Forest Heritage Centre. So the New Forest Centre was the brainchild of a group of local people who got together in 1979. They were passionate about the New Forest and preserving everything that is good about it and helping to explain to people what is special about the area. And ever since 1988, it has been our base as an organisation, and we're a registered charity. There are several parts to our building and what we do here. Primarily in terms of square footage, I suppose, we have a museum display downstairs which seeks to tell the story of the New Forest in a traditional sense, both from its geology, its archaeology, its flora and fauna, and its human histories as well. Then we also have a significant area of space in this building for our collection. And our collection is a mixed collection of books, documents, manuscripts and general ephemera, all of which over the years since 1979 has been given to us by members of the public and the community who want us to safeguard and look after those items and to make them available to research and to sometimes use them for exhibitions of our own in this building. Probably our most prized object is our own mini Beyer tapestry, if you like. It's called the New Forest Embroidery, and it was stitched in 1979 by 60 different people. The most important thing to note is it has lots of scenes and stories from the forest over the 900 years between it being made and all those years ago William the Conqueror founding the forest. The New Forest has a very interesting connection with Alice in Wonderland, and the reason for that connection is that Alice Liddell was a little girl who lived very close to here, and Lewis Carroll, the author, knew her and her family, and so she was the original Alice. And we have here in our collection one of our most prized objects is Alice Liddell's mirror, which you can come and see and stand in front of and reflect yourself in and reflect on the influences that object and Alice herself had on Lewis Carroll. We were recently contacted by the Lewis Carroll Society, who wanted us to take care of their collection of books and objects relating to Lewis Carroll. And so I have here some of those books and objects, and lo and behold, one of those is a first edition of Alice Through the Looking Glass, and that is the very looking glass belonging to the very little girl who was the inspiration for this book. And then we have a whole series of special collections given to us by certain people or the families of people who have died. And some of those tell the whole story of someone's life, from their childhood years, from their diaries and their school photographs through to, in some cases, their war service, where that took them, their medals, and so on and so forth. So we have a lot of personal collections like that. So this is a box full of a collection of objects given to us by the grandson of somebody called Arthur George Symonds, who was a New Forest man. And then in here is everything, ranging from him outside an RAF hut in the war to his driving license, to various family photos and snaps, and him on a motorbike, and his medals and his dog tags. And in particular, Arthur crashed a plane in 1918, and there's a wonderful picture of it in here, upside down in a field. All of this and the nature of the New Forest can perhaps help people make sense of their lives if they live in this area already, or how this special place that they've come to see can inform decisions on the future, whether it's to do with climate change or whether it's to show how a long-term plan for managing somewhere that doesn't change regularly and has principles that have been in place for hundreds of years, how that can create the kind of habitat that we would like to develop in other parts of the country where there are pressures on expansion and building and housing and so on.
Marvellous stuff, and you can get a fantastic cup of latte in the cafe there. Big thanks to the Heritage Centre there down in Lyndhurst for letting us have a look behind the scenes. Now, on to the part of the show where we get to suggest things that you've asked us and answer your questions. It's a section we call What on Earth?
Due to the cold weather currently, this week we gave you the question on What on Earth? How does winter stop you from engaging with the outdoors? The responses were split right down the middle, with those who struggle to engage in nature this winter and those who quite enjoy it. These are some of our favourite responses.
Yeah, so here's one from Suzanne Bishop, who says, I love going outdoors and getting involved with all the local wildlife, but in the colder months I struggle to get outdoors because of my age and the effects that the winter weather has on me, so it's become very unenjoyable. And she's asking us, can we suggest somewhere that she can go that's outdoors in the Bournemouth area for the winter? Well, excellent question, Suzanne. Thank you very much for that response.
And indeed, being out in the cold weather is something that many people will struggle with in the winter months across all age ranges, not just the older generation, as everyone wants to keep warm. Luckily for you, we have the perfect location to spend your winter months.
We do indeed, and our top tip is the Bournemouth Oceanarium. So it's located just next to the pier, and it's got a fantastic range of aquatic animals to go and look at. The entry price is 13 quid, and you can experience otters, sharks, stingrays, penguins, and a lot more.
And if you are wanting to enhance your trip, we recommend attending one of their animal experiences. For £45, you can get the opportunity to go behind the scenes and experience their aquatic guests up close.
Yeah, and for that you can choose to feed some of the animals, for example, turtles, stingrays, even the sharks, scary sharks, or the otters. So it's something there really for everyone in the family.
Absolutely, what an experience. Definitely a hot spot to take the grandchildren for a memorable experience.
Absolutely. So that's about it for this segment, the What on Earth segment. Do join us next week, and we'll be looking at questions including what is it particularly that signals the start of spring? What is it you should be looking out for? And then you'll know that spring is here.
Spring has sprung, as they say.
Yeah.
Now it's time to answer the question on everybody's mind. What is a red squirrel and where can it be found?
I've often wondered that because, I've never seen a red squirrel.
Nor me, and I've been looking. I've been to go. Haven't seen one in my life.
Right, well, Emily Ardouin is a bit of a red squirrel expert. She's been talking to Hayden, and she was explaining to him where to go to find out about this incredible but sadly declining species.
Thanks, Graham. Today I'm here with Emily Adwan. Thank you for joining us today, Emily. How are you doing?
Very good, thank you.
Good to hear, good to hear. So let's dive right in and discuss your research on red squirrels. Could you briefly summarise kind of what that research was?
So, I mean, basically we have been working on red squirrels for 5 years around now, and we're only actually looking at red squirrels from in our regions, basically the Isle of Wight and all the population of Poole Harbour.
Okay.
And basically what we found is our squirrels, they are genetically different from all the rest, like either in the UK or in Europe. So they are genetically unique. And we kind of like looking a little bit more into that, so why are they so special, basically?
Okay. So where else would you be able to, other than Poole Harbour or the Poole Harbour Islands, where would you say that other areas in the UK that you can find red squirrels?
So basically you can find red squirrels in Wales, you can find them in northern England or in Scotland, but basically if you think about the regions, like here it's only the Isle of Wight and the Poole Harbour, basically.
Okay, right. So what would you say has contributed to the decline of the red squirrels?
So one of the main contributor to the decline is the introduction of the grey squirrels.
Okay.
Because the grey squirrels are the carriers of a disease called the squirrel pox virus.
Okay.
And they are an healthy carrier, so they are not, the disease, the virus don't do anything to them, but basically, killing all the red squirrels. And that's, what we think is kind of the main drivers towards, this very decline in red squirrels population in the UK.
Okay, right. So is there any other factors, or is it just the grey squirrels?
Well, I mean, there is this, obviously there is, red squirrels in trees. So if you don't have a lot of trees, you're not gonna have, red squirrels.
Okay.
So yes, woodland obviously is very important for them.
Right. And so final question, what do you reckon that we as a society, can do to protect the red squirrel population in the UK?
Well, I mean, there is a lot of things that, people are already, doing for the red squirrels. So in Wales, they kind of did some introductions of red squirrel in Anglesey, trying to actually get, some more numbers, a higher number of population of red squirrels down there. I mean, obviously you need to actually, make sure there is not that many grey squirrels. So make sure you keep, the number of red squirrels lower, because you know that there is still, they still come with the virus. Trying to see if we can get rid of that virus.
Yep.
That will help as well.
Okay, right. So that's all we have time for today. Thank you, Emily, for joining us and telling us about your research of the red squirrels. I'm sure it has been very engaging for all of our viewers. I've been Hayden Price, and I will see you next time. Back to you in the studio.
Thank you, Hayden. Thank you, Emily, for sharing your research with it. I think it's Brownsea Island in Poole Harbour, isn't it, where you can actually go and still see the red squirrels.
Yes, marvellous. And now it's time that we take a look at your submissions to see what you have been getting up to and seeing in your gardens and from the comfort of your own home. It's time for Homegrown.
Yes, indeed. Here's our first submission sent in by Christine, and she sent us a picture of these very nice flowers which come from her garden, from her greenhouse. Lovely colours. So thank you very much, Christine, for that.
Next up is Mike with a submission of his garden where we can see an unexpected visitor. How amusing. Great to hear from you, Mike, as well as your friend, the cow.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'd be amused if a cow went onto my garden.
No,
like that.
wreak havoc with your dahlias.
Certainly would, yeah. So here's something sent in by Cindy, having a look here at her very nice pet Snowy on a frosty morning. Hope you're enjoying the snowy Cindy moment.
And finally, we have a photograph from Cedric showing us his luscious garden, presenting a wide range of flowers scattered beautifully around his garden, as well as a rather splendid reflection of a really quite marvellous kettle, which makes me in mind of a cup of tea.
It's a fantastic kettle, actually. They're very trendy, the ones with the wooden handles, yeah. So thank you, Cedric, for the kettle and with the flowers behind it.
Well, after a joyous time in the town of Bournemouth, that's all we have time for this week.
Yes, I'm afraid so. So we'll see you next week, where we're heading up north, which is where you're from, the Lake District.
I
That's
know.
where we're going.
Cumbria, great.
And from all of us here, from both of us here, everyone and all the behind-the-scenes team on Branching Out, goodbye.
Goodbye.